Dr. Esther, kindly.
Thank you, Agnes. Welcome everyone to this webinar. We are happy to have you here, and we are looking forward to a great interaction with you. And just to start us off, I'll just give you a brief about who we are, and also at the same time tell you what it is that we are doing, and then we'll dive into the discussion for the day. So interpersonal relationship in the workplace is one of the programs that are under the e-learning solutions. E-learning solutions is a company that leverages on technology to develop, design web-based training programs. And LSAT is one of them, one of the programs where we are now keen at developing 21st century skills programs. And this has been done, we are doing this as a call from the industry, where the industry has realized that we're having a lot of problems with the youth who are graduating from various institutions, in that they're not able to fit in within the workplace. In fact, research tells us that 89% of the recruiters say that when a hire doesn't work out, it usually comes down to lack of soft skills. In another study, it says that 92% of hiring managers believe that soft skills are just as important as hard talents. And we are going to see this during the discussion. Another one says that 48% of recruits fail within the first 18 months. Only 11 of those failures are attributable to a lack of complex abilities. The remaining 89% are caused by lack of skills. So from these few research findings that have been found, we found it necessary at e-learning solutions to design and develop a program that we can help the college-going students and those who are new at the workplace or those who are looking for a job on those skills that the industry is looking for that will enable them fit well within the workplace. And therefore, we set up the 21st Century Soft Skills as a training program. It's a 9-unit course. And this particular program or this particular topic that we are going to discuss today is one of the 9 topics that we have. So resulting in a deficit of 200,000. There is a bit of noise in the background. Kindly mute up so that the rest of us can communicate and listen to each other. Thank you. So I was saying that this is one of the 9 units in the 21st century soft skills, that is interpersonal relationships at the workplace. And the reasons why we do these webinars is to dive deeper into each of the units that we have, bring the industry into the space, and have a deliberate discussion on what this entails when we go to the workplace. So this is going to be one of such forums where we shall be deliberating and discussing with the experts in the area. We'll understand what these skills are or what these interpersonal skills are and why they are important and why they are a must-have. We intend by the end of this particular webinar that you who are the participants will have understood what interpersonal relationships are and how they play out at the workplace. We will also have given you an opportunity to interact with the experts by asking them questions that you think are important or that you might have come across or share your experiences. We'll do this in the chat. We'll also give you, some of you, an opportunity to voice out your concerns. And then the other thing we intend to achieve during this webinar is that we'll try and break down the skills so that you understand each and every bit of it and what it is. And at the end of the day, you will get to know what you need to do for you to build these interpersonal skills that will help you not just at the workplace, but as you interact with other people. You'll understand why they are important, even in a family setup or with your friends, and so on and so forth. It runs through our social fabric, and we'll understand why we are doing that. So to do this, or to get into the deep side of it and discuss this particular program, I want to introduce the host for the program, and this is Anthony Hutia. Anthony Hutia is the founder and CEO of Adams Project, CEO a company called Tenetene Limited, and he's also the chairman Oasis Experience. He has a bachelor's degree in business administration, and he also has a diploma in sales and marketing. He has over 30 years of experience in the IT industry, and he's passionate about family and raising godly offspring. He'll tell you a little bit more about himself as he connects it with the topic of the day. He's actively involved in the family ministry at the Nairobi Chapel. He loves mentoring young men and people in marriage and in relationships. He supports initiatives such as Man Enough, divorce care, and marriages. So I want to welcome you all, and please feel free to ask any questions in the line in which Anthony is an expert in, and you're going to hear more about it as he takes us through this particular program. So thank you very much, and over to you, Anthony. Please take it over. Thank you.
Asante sana, Dr. Esther Gashisho. As you were reading that, I was wondering if I'm still the same person, but yes, I remembered exactly, true. Yeah, sometimes when you do it yourself, you don't present it as when somebody else is doing it. Thanks so much. Welcome, everybody. We are happy to have you here. It's going to be an interesting evening, and we want to say that we love it being interactive. Please, if you have some comments, some thoughts, jot something on the chat. If it's really, really burning, lift up your hand. We're going to give you an opportunity to even speak up as we go on. It's going to be interactive. We are going to share what we have, and we hope that by the end of it, we will all have gotten something out of what we are trying to do today. So, setting up the stage and the topic of the day today, it's mostly, and we are talking about these interpersonal relationships at the workplace. When you get to ask that, there is what comes with that, what helps you improve this or enhance this, and it comes with what we call the interpersonal skills. This, and if you just do Google it, will just tell you, the fact of the matter is that these are behaviors and tactics a person uses to interact with others effectively. So these would be tactics that you've grown with, or you come to learn, that will help you interact with others effectively. So people use interpersonal skills all the time when dealing with others, right? It could be at work, it could be friendship, it could be social institutions, it could be even family. Even when you're dealing with families, you have to get these skills up and running for you to be able to work with this. So we have a group of very, very informative and what I call people with it, panel of experts or my fellow facilitators in this group. And we first of all are going to start with Mercy Riga. Mercy Riga is a holder of the Bachelor's of Education in Arts and also Master's in Philosophy, I think in Education and Communication, and Master's also in Counseling and Psychology. She's an educationist with over 20 years experience in curriculum development. So all of, and maybe most of the curriculum that you've used in school, she might have had access to it. So you can ask her questions about that, but she will explain more of that. She's also a seasoned personal development trainer and a life skills expert, mainly for teenagers and young adults. So she fits very well in this webinar that we're having here. Mercy is also accredited Clarity 4D business partner and also a business person operating a service office business. So we would like to give Mercy probably a minute or two just to also voice out if that's what she is or nimeiba mahali pengine. Google najua inatoanga siri zingine, but probably Mercy would also give us a bit now that she's been there and she's been doing most of this and she's also doing counseling. Hii ni wewe ama tumekuekelea? Mercy. You're on mute, Mercy. You can unmute yourself. Yeah, Mercy. Oh, you can't unmute. Okay. Moderator, unaweza tusaidia pale?
Okay, I think it's okay now. Oh,
yes.
Now I think it's okay.
We can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Yes, that is exactly me, as you have rightly said, Hutia. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Sorry, technical challenges hapa kwa pale, lakini we will get it through. So yes, I finally got unmuted. Thanks so much, Mercy. And we'll go now next to our next panelist. And this time is a gentleman, Bwana Chris Gishoki. He holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the University of Nairobi, has a master's degree in road management and engineering from University of Birmingham. He's also an accredited project management professional by Project Management Institute. Gishoki is a civil engineer with over 5 years experience in highway design, traffic engineering, construction supervision, and contract management. Maybe he'll tell us a few of the roads that he's been involved in. Tuone kama yeye ni wa ukweli ama ni hao tunaitanga imbo. Imbo ni hao worse than Chinese, but he will tell us more, Chris. And he's the managing director at Spellcast Media Kenya, a theater and arts company that focuses on providing a platform for the youth to grow their artistic talent in singing, dancing, and acting. I like that combination. An engineer who's an artist. And at the end of it, we'll tell him to do maybe a small skit ya kutufanyia interpersonal skills and relationships. Chris is passionate in providing the livelihood of humanity through the provision of safe and quality infrastructure while ensuring environmental protection and sustainable construction. Chris has significantly improved in his teamwork, communication, leadership, and negotiation skills, among other things. Chris, engineer actor, habari gani bana?
Salama kabisa. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony. Good evening, all. I'm glad to join you in this webinar for today. As you have heard, mimi ni mtu wa mjengo, and also I entertain the stones while at it. And I'm looking forward actually to interact with you all. I know we've all probably had a very long day. And we're looking forward to winding up the day. I hope that the session will be beneficial to everyone present. So thank you all for logging in. Thank you, Tony.
Asante sana, Chris. And last but not least, we have Lady Stella Geshohe, Head of Project and Business Development at Techtel Solution. She's a project delivery professional with over 8 years experience delivering projects in different sectors. She's passionate about technology with a focus on tech policy and education technology. When she's not working, she's usually running after her adorable sons, swimming and reading a book or two. Tell us, Stella, is this you? And how are you interacting with this thing called interpersonal relationship or these skills? You know, when you have somebody like you with what we call beauty and brains, probably you only smile and get doors opened for you, and you might not do quite a lot. Is this true or what? Stella, let's hear from you. Okay, can someone unmute Stella, please?
Oh, now I'm unmuted. Hi, Tony. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Hi, everybody else. As Tony quite rightly mentioned, I'm Stella. Thank you all for being here. You could have been anywhere else, but you decided to spend your evening with us. My apologies. I do have this nasty flu that's going around, but that will not deter me from participating with you. What we didn't mention in my bio is that my undergraduate is in international relations and security studies, and my master's is in strategic project management. So I did shift, so to speak, and interpersonal relationships are very important to me as a project delivery professional because I have to work with everybody from all walks of life. So that's why I chose to participate. And to answer your question, Tony, sometimes I do smile and get what I want, and sometimes that smile is used against me. So I'll touch on that, especially to our female guests. So asante sana.
And thanks a lot, Stella. And for us, we actually believe in being honest and authentic, and that's why we can ask these questions to our panelists, because we believe that we just don't do paper and theory. We give you the things that we've discovered in trade at the workplace, and that's why then it would help you even in your pursuit to go into the world of work, being there. And even for the other people, and I believe we have even employers in the group, and how we can be able to navigate that. So thanks so much. That was just a quick introduction on the different panelists that we have for today, and we will jump into the main body of this webinar. And this is discussing now details, and we'll have our panelists covering an area as we move on. And we will start with Mercy. The first thing is we are talking about understanding interpersonal relationship in the workplace. And Mercy probably will paint for us a picture of what this exactly means, right? How do you understand these interpersonal relationships in the workplace? What we are saying is, for example, we have the different generations where we call ourselves Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Who, Gen Y, Gen 2000, and all these generations that we have. And we all meet at this workplace. Sometimes when we talk to each other within our age group and our age sets, we understand each other. When you land at a workplace, you find these Zacks, as we used to call them. I don't know if they are all called that nowadays. And you find these Zacks who's not getting you, catching you. And you're using all these acronyms of IDK and all that, and they don't understand you. And this is what we are talking about. How do you understand these interpersonal relationships at the workplace? Are they important? Why do we need them? Mercy. Okay, again, Mercy needs to be unmuted. Moderator, please be with us. Mercy is still muted. Okay, you should be on now.
Now I think I have been unmuted. So thank you very much. So just a quick brief in addition to what Tony has mentioned. When we talk of interpersonal relationships, we are basically talking about the interactions or associations that we have in the workplace. And you find that we have different kinds of associations or interactions in the workplace, each one of us, as we interact or as we relate with each other in the workplace. And this is because in the workplace, we'll be interacting or associating with different categories of people. You will require to associate with your colleagues who are, your colleagues could be your age group. Some could be younger, some could be older than you. Your colleagues could be male like you or female like you, depending on whether you are male or female. Your colleagues could also be in the same department that you are working in or in a different department. So we all need to know, how do we interact or how do we associate with these different groups of people? And most importantly, in our different workplaces, we also interact with people who are outside our workplace, our clients, our customers. Take an example of when you go to the supermarket. I'm sure all of you have been to a supermarket. And there are times you will go to a supermarket and you find you always like going to a particular till because of the way that person at that till at the supermarket or the teller at the bank relates with you. And this is because there's a way they interact with you that makes you feel welcome to that supermarket. Let's kindly unmute some people who are on, who are not muted. Okay. Thank you. So you find that interactions in the workplace are very, very important. As I said, you will be interacting with different categories of people. And as you interact with these different people, you find that affects the way you do your work. Apart from interacting with the clients or with your customers, what is also very important is how you interact with your teammates. In every workplace, you find that you don't work alone. You will, even if you are one of what we call a one-person business entity, you find that you always have to interact with other people. You could be starting your business and doing most of the work on your own, but you will always find you are interacting with other people or you are associating with other people. So how you associate with these people is also very important. And this will determine whether your business will grow, whether that place of work where you are employed, whether you'll be able to meet your targets as an employee, whether you are able to get the business that you're looking for if you're a business owner, and work well as expected. And that's why we are saying interactions in the workplace, associations in the workplace are very, very important. And they are as important as other hard skills that you have acquired from your institutions of higher learning. So as we think about the interactions in the workplace, it is also important to bear in mind certain aspects that make interactions in the workplace very, very, very easy or important. And these are things like, how well do you communicate with the people that you are interacting with? Are you clear in your communication? Are you showing respect? Remember, we said that in your workplace, you are associating with all categories of people. Some who are older than you, some who are your supervisors, so they're in a more senior position than you, some who are your juniors, and all of them require to be shown respect. And that way you are able to work comfortably and meet your targets if you are working in good relationship with other people. The other thing that you need to bear in mind is also the integrity. How do you show yourself as a person who is a good worker? So integrity becomes a very key part of you as a person, and this will also affect the way you associate with other people. It will also affect the way that you are relating with the people in your team. and also even your clients. Because if you're working in an organization where you are not showing, where you are not a person of integrity, then it means that people will stop coming to that place of work. And as an employee, if clients stop coming, what does that mean for you? Your organization does not grow. So soon you may find yourself out of job because of that. And who was the main contributor? You, who did not work well with the other people that you are interacting with on a day-to-day basis or on a regular basis. So our interactions in the workplace are very, very important. Maybe I'll stop there, and unless you have another question, Tony.
No. I mean, that's a really good way to kick us off, and understanding. And I don't know if our panelists, I mean, our listeners and our people who joined, if they have a question for you, and they can be able to type in or raise up their hands or be able to ask.
Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. I can hear you. Thanks a lot. And we're saying if we have any questions for Marcy to start with, we can be able to raise our hands or ask the question, and we'll be able to get those read for us. But as that is happening, we thank you for that. We would like to move into maybe turn this to Chris, where I can ask him, how do you get to navigate challenges and advancing in the workplace using these skills? So how do you do this navigation of these challenges and advancing in the workplace? Because you need these skills for being able to do this. In some corporate terms, we usually say that you do a lot of, excuse my French, ass licking, and doing that to be able to get where you are. And it's just, maybe people think that's one of the ways of calling those as skills. And sometimes you find that, unfortunately, the lazy peoples are the ones who sometimes get promoted. They're the ones who get these jobs. Is it because they know how to use these skills well? Is it they know how to do politics well? How do you navigate these challenges and advances in the workplace, Bona Chris?
Thank you, Tony, for that question. And I think one of the reasons why I'm actually a speaker on this webinar is actually I'm the youngest speaker, and having started working just the other day, I think I have had one or two experiences of some of these challenges that come about because challenges or conflicts that arise in the process of interpersonal relationships. I think one thing I'd like to highlight is that when we talk about peace at the workplace, especially, or even peace in the home, or peace in our relationships, I think it's important to highlight that, as Mahatma Gandhi put it, that peace is not the absence of conflict, but it is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. So some of the challenges that you experience in the workplace or in the process of interpersonal relationships come about because of conflict. And some of these challenges may be perhaps because you are having a disagreement with a workmate on how to approach a task. Perhaps because you have maybe different working styles. So you end up perhaps even exchanging a few unpleasant words in a work meeting. And the best way to go about this is basically to exercise calm, and also being accommodative of other people's opinions. Because thing that happens when you rubbish off someone's opinion, then that person takes it as you do not listen to them, or you do not take their suggestions into consideration. And also we have sometimes challenges that come about because perhaps you're feeling discriminated at the workplace. And this can arise particularly where you feel that maybe you deserved a promotion, but a colleague who you thought or who you discovered later was less qualified got that promotion. And when you end up asking around the office, no one seems to give you the perfect explanation why. So you end up feeling that you're being shortchanged, or even when you're applying for a job and you discover that maybe there was no fairness in the recruitment, which happens quite often. And how is what I would like to ask the attendees in this webinar, how do you react in such situations? Do you become abusive? Do you become violent? How is your attitude and behavior towards some of these challenges that you experience? And the other perspective I'd want to give is, sometimes perhaps specifically when you're an intern in a workplace, in a work environment, and you're trying to work your way up your career, and you cannot quite find your footing at the workplace. Perhaps you're being assigned tasks that you do not think are fit for you. You perhaps have studied a degree for 4 years or 3 years or 5 years, and then you're there seated on your desk, and your boss comes to you and gives you a task to prepare refreshments or prepare tea, or you're sent to deliver a letter, and you are wondering whether it's part of your job description. How do you respond? How do you respond in such situations? How is your body language? And one way to deal with that is perhaps it's not the best assignment to be assigned, especially when you have just started working and you're ambitious and you look forward to learning how to work, how to navigate tasks in your line of work. But it's important to also express, when you feel that some of these are uncomfortable, maybe you could express this to your HR manager, or once in a while maybe you can consider doing. But if you see perhaps you're not making any strides in your work, yet you're being assigned tasks that maybe do not contribute to your professional or career growth, you can bring this up with your supervisor. But it also depends on how you communicate this. If you go to your supervisor and tell him, your vibes are off, such language that perhaps the older generation cannot appreciate, then you might end up being reprimanded rather than being assisted. And also, even when you're late for a meeting, or for work, my colleague spoke earlier on communication. If you cannot show up for work, or you cannot show up for a meeting, how do you communicate this to your supervisor or to your boss? Yeah, how do you say it, and in what format do you say it? There's a difference between saying dear sir or dear madam. Unfortunately, I cannot make it for the meeting because of XYZ. There's also a difference when you say I can't make it. So we have to keep watch of how we communicate, particularly when we are not able to deliver on the tasks assigned. And also, if you are in a position of responsibility, maybe you're overseeing a team, you're overseeing a group of employees, and perhaps one or two are not meeting the expected output. How do how do you find out what the issue is? Do you care to know why the team is not delivering, or do you just reprimand them? You know, so I think the interpersonal relationships at the workplace call for a lot of emotional intelligence, and also call for a lot of humanity. So I've just tried to give a few instances so that at least you can relate on some of the challenges that can arise. I'm sure maybe some of you have come across some of them. But I think for now, that is adequate. Thank you, Tony. You can take over.
Okay, thanks. Chris, maybe one quick question, because you said you're the youngest. I don't know, I forgot to check your ID. Maybe I'm younger than you, but yeah. Nindevu tu wanasemanga silver fox, ni kidogo tu. But the issue is this. Now that you said you worked like the youngest, there is one of the biggest issues that we have even in the job market currently, that you find that you've just finished college, and then you're applying for a job, and they will ask for 3 years work experience, 5 years work experience, and all this, and you've not gotten there yet. How do you navigate? Because these are part of what these are part of what we are talking about. The skills, the interpersonal skills that you have developed that far could get you that job in a way also. But you find now you don't have those experiences. If you never get some place to work to develop those experiences, then it means that you never get a job, right? Because nobody says that I want, except those who say we want management trainees, and then they get you like the banks and a few others. Nobody will tell you out of campus, come and work and get this big job. You have to have worked a couple of years with the 30 years experience and you're just out of campus. How do you use these kind of skills to be able to navigate this challenge?
Thank you, Tony. Actually, that's an emerging issue in the current world. And I mean, I remember they used to say kazi kwa vijana pesa kwa wazee, but now it's kazi kwa wazee pesa kwa wazee. You know, it is it has become quite unfortunate. And as you have rightly said, you find that you have the jobs advertised, you know, that require minimum years of experience, but you know, you've just left campus. But I think what is, I mean, and I'd also like to highlight that we're in an era where you prepare CVs, you send CVs, you send, and you actually do not know whether they reach where they were being sent. You know, you do not get any feedback. You even begin to wonder whether they were just trashed. You know, and it results actually to a lot of despair and disappointments. I remember once going to the field and meeting a former classmate 4 years down the line, who had actually never gotten a job opportunity 4 years after campus. So you can imagine the social, the mental pressure that such situations present. But one thing I'd like to highlight is you know, the journey to success begins a bit far. For example, I think some colleagues of some former classmates during my undergraduate actually managed to secure jobs when they were in our last year of campus. And how did this happen? This happened during networking events in campus. Yeah, you know, you might think that being in university, that such social networking events are not important, but going to such social networking events, even when you're in campus, whereby maybe career talks or even career days, you know, you get to meet your fellows in the profession, and also. Generally, what I would also comment, in this world, social capital has become very key. you may go and learn and study and achieve all the degrees in the world, but at the end of the day, you know, people are at the center of your success in whatever field or in whatever engagement you are involved in. There are always people at the center of it, and that is why these interpersonal relationships become very key. Yeah, even in your communication. And I think you know, I've come across very interesting CVs whereby you go through a CV and it is very generic. You can actually, you know, can work under high pressure. You know, can and you know, perhaps, or can work with little to no supervision. You know, I think people need to be to own their character, and we cannot all be the same. And I think we need to show our strengths. And I think self-awareness is important, is an important aspect towards that. I think I'd like to just summarize this explanation by saying, you know, even as you look for a job, or you progress in your career, you know, at the end of the day, I usually make fun and say, when you're in a government related job interview and you are asked your net worth, you should say your network, because for sure it has become very important in the current world. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Chris. And I see Sharon has lifted her hand. It seems there's a burning question. Can we unmute Sharon?
Good evening. My name is Sharon from Kenya Utalii College, and I have this one question. As in terms of promotion, how do you shift from being you are doing operations, or you were just an operations person, and then now you're a supervisor? Given the fact that you had this relationship here, quote unquote, kuzoeana with your coworkers, now you have to be their boss, and most of them take it as tumezoea huyu, yeah? So how do you shift from being from operations to supervision or management? Thank you.
Okay, that's a really, really, really good one. I mean, that's exactly the skills we are talking about. Who among my panelists wants to take that question? Stella, Chris, or Marcy? Okay, Stella wants to take it up.
Hi, Sharon. Thank you for that question. I've taken your question because it happened to me once. It's just about boundaries. At the end of the day, you don't want, you've gotten a promotion, well done. You've pivoted. You're going up in the ladder, and once in a while you will feel, I'll use the term bad if you have to reprimand somebody, but at the end of the day, what you're working for, working towards will affect everybody. Using my own example, I really needed something for a project I'm delivering, and this particular individual was just not giving me what I wanted in another department. And I sent several emails, no response, but hi, you did say hi and bye. The route I took, I just spoke with their manager and said, listen, I need this delivered. I'm not understanding what's happening in the department. I put everything on email, and eventually it was resolved. Going back to what I was saying, you will feel bad if you need to reprimand somebody, but at the end of the day, you need to understand boundaries. You need to develop your own boundaries. Maybe it's an opportunity for you. I always say every challenge is an opportunity to learn more about yourself. So for you, you understand, okay, how do I better communicate the needs of what I need to deliver? How do I go about it? And if you're stuck, you speak to your direct report and say, this is where I'm struggling. How do I go about it? That's why there's a reason you were given that job, because they can see you have it in you. So there's no point in how do you say it, kujikaza with a problem. No, it's better to speak up to your immediate hiring manager and explain where the challenge is and see how to navigate it. Na hiyo kuzoeana itaisha, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is for everybody. It's no longer about your friendship, it's about delivering something, but also managing that relationship. There's something we call managing sideways and upwards. So you manage sideways by saying, hey, I need 1, 2, 3 things. Have clear timelines, have clear goals, explain what will happen if something is not delivered, the consequences of not delivering it. And managing upwards is where you explain to your immediate supervisor what is happening, and they can help you navigate. So I always go like, if you can see me properly, sideways and upwards. That's always what's helped me. I don't know if anybody else has something else they want to add.
Anything to add for Chris?
Yeah, maybe what I can add is, one thing that you actually realize when you leave college or university, you say there's something in university called formation, and you say degree in your jamii when you're leaving university. But one thing actually you realize when you go into the work environment, that you are actually pretty much responsible for your actions. So when you're in university or college, you may camouflage in group work and deliveries, But one thing you realize when you start working, or when you're in the work environment, that you have to earn and work for your money. That I'm sure the employers present here can attest that that if you do not deliver, you do not get paid. And at the end of the day, you want to get paid. So I think why I'm saying that is because at the workplace, as Stella has rightly put it, you put this friendship favors aside, and you focus on a deliverable, and you focus on the job. It is also possible to have a very, very fruitful friendship with your colleagues outside work and still have a fruitful working relationship. And I think what comes at the center of it all is respect. Yeah. Also, if you are promoted and your juniors now, your friends respect you, then I'm sure they will also respect your position and your authority. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcy, you had something to say?
Yes, just one more addition to what Stella and Chris have said. Besides having very clear boundaries and respect, is the issue of professionalism. So if you're professional in your work, it doesn't matter whether we were colleagues last month and this month I'm now your supervisor. If I'm doing my work professionally, then I should be able to put forward, and that's now where the laying out the boundaries comes in, because professionalism basically means, am I able to bring out the best in the work that I'm doing, and am I giving out the best? And once the people that were your former colleagues realize that you're being professional, then they will respect you. And if they are sincere friends, because maybe that's why you'll be having problems with them because you're friends. If they are sincere friends, then they'll support you as you grow up the ladder. But again, let's also remember that in the workplace, there will be those people who want to pull you down as you continue to grow, and there are those who will actually support you. So we need to be aware of these groups of people in the workplace and know how to best to handle each one of them respectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Stella. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you, Chris. I had seen, and I don't want to lock you out. I'd seen Fortune to be what? Raising their hand. And I didn't want to say he or she because I was not clear.
Okay. Okay, my name is Fortune Kibiwat, and if I may clarify, I'm
Yes.
from Moi University, and it's a he from my voice, obviously. So my question, my question goes to the whole panel as a whole. Okay, my question is, if you're a new employee in a workplace, and then there's, we are a political country, kujuana, and then you have stellar inputs in your performance, and your academic credentials validates you are being there to that organization. Now, how best do you handle that scenario? Do you, as you put it in French, do you do the French thing, or do you just leave the employment? Because you have to ascend the ladder, you have to ascend the job group, and now your competition are using the leverage of maybe political inclement, nepotism inclement to climb up the ranks in any even if it's a school institution, even if it's any kind of institution that could join us. Now, how do you handle such scenarios when you meet them? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And that one we will tie in exactly to what Stella is going to talk about in the next session. And I think she will try and cover that, and she'll put that in there. And it's a very, 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 and we know what is happening in the country right now. They feel like mbako kuna shares. Kama wewe hauna shares tutakuacha huko tu. And you know those kind of things, and it happens even in the workplace. So it's a issue about sasa hizi shares tutachukulia wapi, tunaenda stock exchange ama hii kampuni mambo ni gani. So the next thing we want to do is embracing diversity and overcoming these barriers. And I think Stella had mentioned some things. Yes, there are those things that work maybe for ladies or men, the good smiles, the different things in the workplace. Sometimes it works against you, sometimes for you. So how do you embrace this diversity and overcoming these barriers, and including this mambo ya kujuana, and how do you, and we've seen it, sometimes the guys who are the most hardworking never get those promotions, right? The others come and slide in because of one reason or the other. You have a godfather, a godpapa. Wewe kama una godpapa, wewe yako ni kwisha, and so on. So how do you get to navigate, or rather embrace all this diversity and look at ways of how do you overcome these barriers using those interpersonal skills at the workplace? Stella.
All right. So I'm going to unpack this. Hope I make sense to everybody. For where inclusion and diversity are concerned, we have to be realistic and realize post-COVID, we're not going to interact with a traditional workplace as we did before. What I mean is that a lot of you will be interviewing with international companies. So interpersonal relationships will start at the moment you're interviewing. Okay, let me start there, right? If you're interviewing with somebody based in Europe or a company based in Europe, they'll expect you to have your webcam on at all times. Why? You would not exactly show up to an interview with glasses and a cap. That's your first opportunity to make an impression to the interviewing panel. Yes, because the next person who's coming after you is that one you're talking about, has a godfather, a godmother, a cat who has a relation. I mean, all these interlinked relationships. So your first opportunity to show what you're made of beyond what is on paper. They saw your CV, they liked it, but who is in front of us, okay? So when you're in a traditional interview setting, you show up, of course, you're dressed smartly, your phone is off at all times, yes, and you interact and you've done your research on the company, you've done everything and you show up. I always say show up, okay? Digitally, you can't show up, but webcam on all times. Speak when you're spoken to, ask the relevant questions. After the interview, send an email saying, thank you for having me. I appreciated the time. I appreciated the questions. I hope to hear from you soon. Okay, so already the next person who's gotten that job because they think they already have a foot in the door, they have one up. Okay, we've gotten the job, and to your question, Fortune, you're competing with somebody or people who got in there through connections. Something that has always worked for me is your work will always speak for itself. always. You may not do so month 1, month 2, but the first quarter, leadership and those around you will know, enyewe, Fortune is always delivering. Huyu alikuja na anko yake, what's going on? They may not necessarily say it to your face because they have to respect the hierarchy, but it is visible. I always say to people, your vibe, your energy, your demeanor meets people even before you open your mouth, okay? So little things like your hiring manager, always make sure at the end of the week you send them a report. This is what I have achieved. This is what I hope to achieve the next week. Is there anything you have for me? Yes, there's finding a balance between overly being eager and managing yourself, okay? We've touched on politics. It's always good to check your political inclinations at the door until you find out the mood in your environment. When I say check it, yes, echoing what Mercy and Chris have said, it's a professional environment. Yes, there are conversations you cannot have when you're working on a project together. It's you and you alone. You may find that you're being chatty, talking about who you supported in the last elections, but somebody's going to hear it. So check where you're having those kinds of conversations. They're not in that environment. Unless you've built a rapport with a colleague, but then again, going back to what Mercy has said, not everyone is there to see you win. Not everybody. There'll be people who want to see you win. There'll be people who don't want to see you win. Particular area that's personal for me is for women. I found myself working in an environment where I'm the only woman in an all-man team. Gentlemen, you'll find yourself, you're the only man in an all-female team. Then how do you navigate that? Professionalism always comes first, no matter what. Yeah. If you do find yourself with somebody asking you, let's go for a drink, you're mature enough to know that that's not, how it happens. You decline, and just keep it as professional as possible, because remember, you're there to learn a skill set. Yeah, always know, what have I come here to do? What skills have I come here to learn? How is it aligned with my objectives for that quarter, for that those 6 months, for that 1 year? You may not want to be in that job for the rest of your life, but there's skills you're learning. Always have that at the back of your mind. And remember to also always be culturally aware. You will, like I said, you will interview with multinationals who language is a barrier. Don't assume because they don't speak English like you, they're not as good as these are individuals who've delivered projects that will blow your mind. Again, check your biases at the door. Always have an open mind. Always be culturally aware. We recently had Ramadan, and you will have colleagues who are observing a fast. It's always good to always, I'm just using examples, just always check and say, oh, how's the fast going? Okay, we wish you well. If it's always good to show, as Chris was saying, have that emotional intelligence. A personal example I like to use was when Russia was annexing Crimea in 2014. I needed an item delivered by a team working in Russia, and no, in Crimea, sorry. And when I called to ask for the item, their office had been bombed. So I couldn't get what I wanted. Mind you, my project was in a critical phase. Now that I could have said, I could have made it about me, but I chose not to. I said, you know what? We're really sorry about what has happened. These things don't happen often, but please let us know when you're back online and we can get the project back on track. Then I went and reported to the senior manager and said, this and this has happened. How do we find a workaround? You will always find yourself dealing with situations that you don't expect, you don't know how to go about it, but echoing what Chris has said, people are the key to your success. They're the road to your success. Boundaries always are important, and be aware, be conscious. You will work with individuals you've never interacted with in your life. you may find that you have a subconscious bias, but where the world is headed, we're working on products that need everybody's hands on deck. Now, if you're not willing to work with somebody because they're from a different background, have a different level of intelligence, you're picking everything that is different about them, then you're not ready to work with individuals. And that will really, really be a challenge, genuinely. So read up in your free time, read about different cultures. How do I manage myself? How do I upskill? That's why we have such a course being put together by e-learning solutions, because, you know, these soft skills, as Esther mentioned when we started, soft skills are very, very important in a digital age. Yes, we're all behind a laptop, but they're increasingly more important because, you know, you need to know how to communicate, you need to know how to relate. Even if you can't see somebody, you need to know how to manage yourself. There's a lot on the course, but this particular area, it's you alone and how you are a toolbox. And once you leave university, you're adding to that toolbox, and adding to that toolbox will only make your work life that much better. I think I've summed it up, Tony. Yeah.
Yeah, Stella, you've done that, and thanks. And I think there's quite a lot that we can be able to discuss in this area. I know we have quite a short, limited time that we're trying to cover quite a lot. But yes, thanks quite a lot. And I see there's a question that had come from James Okwayo, if I pronounce that correctly. Is keeping quiet one of the ways to navigate some challenges? Okay. They're asking if keeping quiet is one of the ways of navigating some challenges. I have the right answer. I mean, I have my answer, but I see Chris smiling. I don't know if he wants to pick it first.
No, I'm smiling because you know, when I actually saw his question, you know, I asked myself, if you're dating someone you love, is keeping quiet the best solution? And I'll bring it back to the workplace. You know, there's this serenity prayer where we ask God to help us accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, silence can mean war, and it can also mean many things, you know. But at the workplace, I think it's important for things to be said, and communication is a very important aspect. And I'll just give an example of a situation, you know. Now, there is a survey that was undertaken by the American Bureau of Statistics, by the Labor Bureau of Statistics in America in 2017, and the statistics showed that on average about 8.5 hours, I think so, about, are spent working and work-related activities every day, Monday to Friday. Now, I'm not sure you want to be in an environment where you have a sort of a cold war, in quotes, with your colleagues in the office, whereby none of you is knowing what the other one is thinking, and you're being passive aggressive around each other, rather than sorting out the issue. Because, I mean, you know, silence at the workplace can be very detrimental to productivity. Yeah, because the reason why we're actually even having this webinar is, you know, to enhance, you know, your interactions at work. But when you choose silence as a tool or as a solution to challenges or conflicts, then what does that mean? That means, you know, every other consultation that you'd otherwise need to have with your colleague or your boss, then that consultation is no longer there. So I think where silence, silence can mean something and can also mean nothing, but there's certain situations where you opt for silence, but you still have to address the issue later. An example is, in the heat of the moment, you are arguing with a workmate, and you can see that, the argument is going round and round, Sometimes it's better to exercise calm and then revisit the issue later. But prolonged silence can never be a solution to progress, to conflict, and will result to non-productivity in the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you. Shiro, I see your hand is up. Shiro Mogithi. Can somebody? Okay, yeah.
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Shiro Mugithi, logging in from Kampala, Uganda.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And it's very, very interesting. Although I'm Kenyan, I'm not as my name suggests, but I'm based in Kampala currently. So it's very nice listening to all of you.
Okay.
And for me, like I had, is it Chris who said he's the youngest? Maybe for me, then I'd say I'm the oldest. With maybe a 40-year plus working experience.
All right.
And so when I came across this, I had a lot of interest in especially understanding the interrelationship, especially when you talked about soft skills. And at one juncture, I thought Stella Gishohe was going to handle my area when she talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the question I want to throw to maybe all of you, because the introductions and everything were very good. Mercy talked about the different age groups, the different maybe qualifications, stuff. But now for me, I'm coming from a totally different kind of maybe ball game, because I'm in the area of neurodiversity. So one of the areas, because when I saw the soft skills, actually that's how I was joining in, because one of the things that has come strongly is everybody looks at inclusion for purposes of education, because I know we all have special children or we've interacted, but it's it all ends there. When it comes now to the workplace, because I want to believe in all the different places that we are at one time or another, you're either, whether you're interacting with that person in the workplace, or maybe you have a child who has an issue, or maybe a spouse or a family member, it becomes all very, very a bit tricky. And I was also very excited when Chris talked about him being in art and everything. So basically, in a nutshell, I am here in the line of intellectual disabilities, having been in the area of psychosocial support back in Kenya. So when Mercy talked about life skills, I was so excited. So my question I'll throw is, where or how in these now, because you are the younger generation, I belong to the old school of thought. To be precise, I'm 60 years old, but I'm still trying to maneuver and try to maybe fit in the arena where you guys are playing in. So the most difficult thing that we are facing is now knowing how or where to place them, because this is something I got into about 3 years ago, and there's so much talent. So what are we doing in the workplace for purposes of that interpersonal? Because this is a question that when we go for the trainings and everything, somebody wants to know, where are we? So for me, that's a question that I really, really want to be responded to, and maybe point out which organizations in Kenya would we look at? Because when I did my research, the only place I almost went to nearer is something being run by an Australian. So that's an area that I was mainly joining you guys tonight. But other than that, I love everything else you're doing. But that is an area that is so unaddressed. And even as you also talk about the interpersonal relations, because in the workplace, again, the issues of mental health, we have amongst ourselves people who are in the workplace and for different reasons, maybe they're going through depression, stuff. And that's why maybe you're finding your colleague will commit suicide or you're all worried. So how are we interacting beyond the qualifications, beyond the work experience, beyond, because the issues that are happening, I am in my capacity here now as a parent, as a grandmother, and somebody who's in the neurodiversity. So that's maybe what I would want to hear from you guys. Thank you.
And clearly you can see all this gold, all this wisdom, and the stuff that is coming out is really quite a lot. Not sure who I'm going to throw that to, and I know it's loaded in different areas, and it's part of what we do. That okay, Masi, you want to pick that up?
Okay, I can, as you have observed, it is quite loaded, but I can pick part of it up. I think, yes, I like what Shiro has said, in that sometimes we only think about diversity when it comes to the education sector. But again, in the workplace, what I know is that if you look at the Employment Act, which is like the Bible for employers, it is very clear that an employee should not be discriminated on any grounds. So if we are looking at taking care of employees who are who have different needs and who have different capacities, that would say it would be taken care of in that. But of course, as we say, when you get to the ground, you might find things are different, because our different institutions look at different things look at things in a different perspective. But we need to, in the workplace, if you're going to work somewhere, you need to know that you should not be discriminated on any area because of maybe you are different from the other people. And even if sometimes as you're filling up your employment form, you might be asked if you have any form of, say, even a disability or something like that, because there are people who are living with disabilities. The idea is basically not to discriminate, but to also know how do we make it easier for you to work if you have a certain disability. But again, we know that we are in a society that is developing. We are in a society where some of us if I met with somebody who has difficulties of hearing and speaking, I may not be able to communicate with them because I'm not conversant with, say, sign language. So we would say that we are still developing as a society, but employees and staff in any organization need not be discriminated on any such grounds. And we need to make sure that as we think about the interactions, the associations in the workplace, we take into consideration that people are coming from diverse backgrounds, diverse communities, and even diverse cultures, and know how best to interact with each one of them in that way. Shiro, I hope I have managed to answer part of the question you asked. Maybe somebody else can add on to that.
Okay, Stella. Yeah.
No, go to Tony.
No, it was fine. I was going to say, as our panelists are also answering, that I would also call Dr. Gashishio to give maybe a bit of, because I know the issue of the soft skills and so on are a bigger part of why even this whole curriculum started off through that. But yes, Stella, say something, then we can call it Dr. Gashishio. Eric Tonui or somebody, I saw your hand up. We've not forgotten. We'll give you an opportunity to be able to ask your question. So let's have Stella, and we can have Dr. Gashishio. Esther.
So I want to tackle mental health awareness and my experience with the workplace. So for us, it's about pushing for the awareness within the workplace as employees. You know, where I work, I've sat with the HR personnel and said, hey, why don't we organize a wellness day? Why? Because, you know, I always say we're living in a post-COVID world. We have the statistics in front of us. We know the issue of mental health and wellness is on the up and up. How do we go about it? For yourselves, we all have to be each other's advocate. We all have to be each other's champion. If we're not, that's the only way change comes about in the workplace, is through the people in that workplace, because senior management, leadership, CEO, C-suite, yes, they want to focus on what we're going through, but some of them, it's about the bottom line. It's about, you know, acquiring the next client. That doesn't mean they don't care. That doesn't mean that they could care less, but it's up to us in the workplace to bring those statistics to the surface and say, hey, how do we go about it? You mentioned organizations in the country, Shiro. Actually, Safaricom are very good at organizing such events and actually bringing on speakers. And there's wellness days, and on the issue of hiring or how they hire, you'll see that there's a lot of preference. Sometimes, even if you look at their job adverts, they'll prefer candidates from a different category. You know, persons with disabilities. We do have a long way to go, but if we all ourselves become advocates for what we're passionate about, because at the end of the day, this colleague that you're spending 8+ hours a day, if they were to leave the earth tomorrow, you'll be so impacted by that loss. It will affect everything about you. So it's best to get in front of it. And in this day and age, with the kind of knowledge and information we have, I always say, you know, yes, we have said that it's about you and you alone, but there's also that room for you are your brother's keeper to an extent, especially with the statistics held in front of us. So yes, I'm of the opinion that it's for us to bring it to the forefront of management. And how do you go about it? Speak to HR over and over and over and over again until it gets to where it is. And it doesn't have to be something big, but you start creating awareness through little initiatives that eventually capture the eyes of the decision makers, and you never know, you've become a change agent and a change maker. It's not as easy as I'm making it sound, but it has to start with us. That's my belief.
Okay, thanks. And Esther, I don't know if I give you the time now or a bit later when I cover a bit of the section that I was supposed to do.
Allow me to just say something so that you don't lose it. And
Yes,
following up on what Stella has actually said, that it is not all lost. And yes, we may not be doing as much as we ought to do, or really give a lot of weight to this area. But Shiro, it is a very critical area, and that is why probably we have started up some of these things as an initiative to try and lobby and bring everybody together to give this particular people living with disabilities a chance. And the government actually has set out several policies on inclusion, whereby even in employment, especially for government jobs, there is a provision that they must have X number of, for any employment taking place, they must have X number of people living with disability being integrated within that, within the organizations. At the same time, we've heard about procurement being given to a certain percentage of for people who live with disabilities. So these are all deliberate efforts that are being made to bring together or to include these people who are living with in such conditions within our institutions. And then when that happens, therefore, it follows that as you integrate them, first by bringing them into your organization, then it follows you need to ensure that they're comfortable within that environment. So the kind of work they do, how you relate with them, and so on, allowing them to express themselves, then becomes becomes an area that we all must be aware of, and also engage them in, so that they all become part of that community. So this is happening in most of the organizations, especially where we have them in. But again, I agree, we need to do a lot more in that. So that tells us also that we may not have such organizations that are deliberately fighting for the space of such people who are living with various types of disabilities, but there are certain pockets and efforts that are being done. We also know that there are certain groups that have been formed specifically for various forms of challenges. We have parents with dyslexic kids, others with physical disabilities and all that. So if this can all be brought together so that we all lobby towards the same direction, then I guess that will eventually be heard. And as Stella says, we'll probably bring them on board to so that they're able to fit in. We also know a part of these deliberate conversations going on. We've seen that we've seen groups of people, or rather in any environment, in any discussions going on, if it is virtual, we must have maybe someone who is signing, so that you bring on board those who also have hearing disabilities to be part of the conversations that are taking place. And this, if you've noted in Kenya, it has taken root. Not in, many conversations going on, many meetings going on, whether physical or in person, they always have an interpreter as part of the team. Those who have whatever forms of disability are also brought in and allowed time to also express themselves. So I guess we are also working towards this. We agree that a lot more needs to be done, and we are hopeful that through these programs that we are doing in soft skills, we'll be able to integrate them as much and also create more awareness to the country and beyond, for that kind of integration to come in, for that interpersonal relationship for all, including those of all from all areas, to also be brought on board. So that is something we are working on, and we hope we have a few of them who are also in our programs, and we hope to bring even more within the programs that we are running. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you so much. And I know time has really, really flown. It's gone like crazy. Eric, I'll give you an opportunity after this. There's some other thing that we needed to cover. How do you develop or improve these interpersonal relationships or these skills? Maybe to start with, and I'm trying to do this and cover it as fast as we can, is first, you need to actually be open to and asking for feedback. This is one way that people appreciate you, because then if the people see that you want to learn, you're open to suggestions, you're open to this conversation, then you become open to be able to correct, to be able to guide in this. And these are part of what you can be able to do. Number two, never always talk over people. Sometimes we could be the master of the area that we are in and always think that we know, but you discover that when you listen, and this is a part where the person who has asked whether to keeping quiet sometimes help. This is somewhere that, as Chris said, it depends on when you keep quiet. You have to know when you give the opportunity to talk. And we always say that's why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you know when to actually be able to come in there. So never talk over people. Always listen, and you can learn something new, because you never know where these people have been, what they've been learning, and they get to learn a lot of things. And that guides us to the next point of listening actively, right? You always listen to people. There could be something that is dropped in there that you never saw it in a way that it was said. And it could open up different ways that you are able to do this, okay? Many a times, and I think Stella mentioned this, is you have to maintain, and that's why even online, you have to maintain eye contact. Eye contact gives that attention, that I'm listening to you. I'm listening actively, attentively to you, not me being on my phone. And I know our new generation is, even when I'm talking to my kids, they will always tell you, I'm listening to you, and the guy is on Fortnite and doing what? How are you serving those two masters? And the part of the eye contact gives that attention to what this person is saying, and it helps us even being able to develop this stuff. The other part, and I think one of us mentioned, I can't remember whether it's Marcy, Chris, or Stella, is being respectful to other people. And this is other people's thoughts and opinion. This is, and I think Stella mentioned this, about upwards, sideways. It could be people under you, people at your same level. people who are above you, because you have to be respectful. Probably you got in here because your father is the chairman of the company, but you still have to go. You have managers who have to guide you. You have managers who have to take care of you. So you have to respect, no matter what your position, how you got in there, you have to respect people under you, people at your level, and people even who are your reports or your superiors. Because that way, then you are able to navigate within the different levels of people. And you find that I've been in sales for a very long time, and you find that one of my strategies is I have to be the best friends with those watchmen of those organizations, right? These watchmen can give you so much intelligence that nobody in that organization can share with you. By the time I'm walking inside the gate, I know if the MD is there or not. So by the time I'm going to the secretary and she tells me the MD is not in, I know I'm being played or not, okay? And this is just a watchman. And you would think, okay, Hutia here, he's driving this big car, probably a Mercedes or a V8. I cannot have that kind of a relationship with this. But it's being that, being able to navigate in the different levels within those organizations that gets you to that point that you have these skills that you can deal with anyone, right? And you find sometimes you have very good relationship with the C-level, but they have approved a project. But when you go to implementation, it stalls. And even Dr. Gashishi, Esther can tell you, in government, it happens. You have all these ministers and you're friends with them. When you go down there to people who work, the bureaucracy that you will find down there, you will die even when the project has been approved. So those are some of what you can be able to actually be able to take that up and even fight for those skills to have this. Okay, so the bigger part is also you need to do a lot of being aware of the body language of the people you're talking to. You could be communicating something within a team, and you have to read the room, right? You have to read the room. In sales, we say that you have to bring yourself to the people you're selling to, right? You could think you know so much about your product, but people don't even understand what you're saying. When I was working at Microsoft, we had these acronyms of everything. So you would be in a meeting and you're dropping acronyms and so on, and you think you're with it. When you're in an organization like Microsoft, when you drop that, you become a star. But when you go to a customer's meeting and you're dropping all these things, you become irrelevant and you lose your team. So you have to look and see the body language of the people you're dealing with in your organization, which gives you now the idea of whether your skills are working, you're communicating, you're learning what you're supposed to do. And it's really, really important, because then you can stop, probably ask a question that is going to unlock where they are lost. If you left them somewhere, you can probably take some time to go back and be able to now come and bring them to where you're going. So this is also very, very key, right? And all this we are talking about, not even only the employees, even the employers. And we say a lot of times, people don't leave their jobs, they leave their bosses, right? So even the employers, you have to have those interpersonal skills that we are talking about for you to deal even with the employees, right? And this is really critical as we do this. So developing these skills is also something else. When you have them, enhancing them is also another thing, because you could be having skills that were there in the 1950s, right? And I'm not saying even Shiro, she's still having those, and you can see she's coming in here and looking for being able to enhance and develop these things. Is not to think that because you did that those many years ago, and I always challenge these professors, the thing you professed 70 years ago is the same thing, and we have changed. We were using horses those times, we are using jets now. So things have changed. So you have to enhance. If you have those skills, you have to go test them, look at ways of how do you continue enhancing them, developing new ones based on what has come out now in the market. So it's a way that you already sometimes unlearn what you had learned, relearn, and learn some of those stuff. So it's quite a dynamic area that you can never stop, right? Because if you want to grow, if you want to progress, there's no room for you to slumber. So you have always to be active and being able to do that, right? And most of the things that even we say, even HR, you have to actually change the way you do your interviews. You can't continue giving me the same question in an interview and expect to get the right candidate. I mean, you can't. And nowadays I go to interviews, I get bored and I tell them, I don't think you guys know what you're looking for. And I come out and maybe I lose some jobs because of that. But the thing is, somebody asks you questions you are asked when you are 20. Now, for some Zacks like us, you're still being asked those questions. And I tell them, no, guys, you can't do this. You have to be creative. But those guys still come with a kike, it's like a template, and they go through it. If I manage to hack that template, then I know what I mean. It has to be dynamic and being also developing these skills, even for the HR teams, for the bosses as employers, for the employees is really, really important. And that's why it's a crossbow to develop all these skills. And that's why we didn't say it was only for the employees. It's the workplace. And the workplace, we're looking at the 360. That's the bosses, the employers, the employees, and even the customers. Because at the end of the day, these are the people who are paying all these bills and getting these things for you. So it's quite a lot. And I know we've tried to do some justice for some few things, but I know we didn't cover everything else. And this is one, I think our second webinar, and we'll be having this, I think, on a monthly basis, where we're able to be discussing different topics. And we want even feedback from you. I don't know if we already sent you, there's a poll that we were doing. And I know I promised Eric Toneni to ask his question. I will not be being a truthful man and a man of my word if I don't give him an opportunity when I'd already promised. Eric, are you there?
I'm there.
Oh, good. Eric, please go ahead.
Now, listen to this case. Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Good evening.
Assume you are working in an environment where your boss behaves in this manner.
Mm-hmm.
A company which has the boss, let's say maybe the manager, then there are other different managers on the lower scale. But every time something comes up, this is a boss who does not come and sit together with all of you to address, but then he or she keeps on meeting different people, different managers of the lower rank, and sharing the same idea with them, and eventually comes up with a solution through that. So that time you sit possibly in a boardroom to address the same, he has met all of you at different levels, and possibly you are not aware because you have not shared. You have had the trust that I was talking to my boss, therefore there is no need of sharing with the other people. So you have the assumption this guy has not met the other people. But by the time you are sitting on the same table, this guy has met all of you and almost has come on that table to tell you what he has decided. Sometimes assume this is a boss who will go behind to discuss one of you with your friend. How do you handle such a person in such an environment?
Aha. I don't know if that falls under barriers. And you can know where I'm going. Stella, who wants to pick that up? I can give to the panelists, including Dr. Gashishi. Who wants to pick that up?
And possibly before they respond, to add on it, you find yourself that the same boss is that person who possibly never has one stand. It's a person who keeps on shifting goalposts. How do you work with such a person?
As Stella gets ready to respond, allow me to say one thing, because these are things that you find yourselves in, where you are not on the same path with your boss, or your bosses go around doing certain things that you're not very comfortable with. What I always say is that be as professional as you can be. Don't get yourself into a box because you want to please someone, or because this is what is happening. Because most of the time, when you do that, at the end of the day, you are the one who will be thrown under the bus. It is always good to keep your head high, do what is expected. You know what your terms of your TORs are, work within your TORs, whether it is what the boss wants or not, it must be within what you are employed to do, and you do that. So if that happens, therefore, with professionalism, whatever happens thereafter, they can't pin you down on it. But always remember to be very respectful, and that is why we are saying interpersonal relationships are very important, so that you're able to stand your ground in a respectful manner and respond in a way that you're not going to be offensive or you're going to cause a conflict, and then let it lie. But I always say professionalism at every point. Maybe Stella, you want to add on to that? Thank you.
I totally agree. And back to what I said earlier, it's a learning opportunity, because you will always meet such people in your walks in life, always. So I would always suggest, with such a challenge, you've seen what is happening. Maybe you ask for every Monday, Wednesday, whichever day, pick a day and say, may I please be seeing you on this date at this time? That way you can gauge where this boss is thinking, because it's very easy to think that they're after you, but maybe they're not. But we as human beings, subconsciously, we internalize a lot when we shouldn't. We're human, it's our flaw. But to get ahead of the situation, pick a day, meet them and say, don't say, I don't understand. It's, I would like to understand more about 1, 2, 3 things. Is it possible to meet you on a certain day at a time of your choosing? That way you will gauge why they are doing what they're doing. And in those meetings, your job is to listen. Only when have you been invited to push back will you push back. Only when have they or he or she asked for an opinion will you give it. But during your one-to-one, I call them one-to-one sessions, you say, okay, I understand. Thank you for your time as usual. Yes, in this whole time, you're adding to your skill set, you're adding to your toolbox. Remain as professional as possible, and you know what you're getting out of that role. You'll know what you're doing there. And if it gets too much, you always know what you have to do. It's learn until you say you've learned enough, and remain as professional as possible.
I think, thank you, Stella, for that. I think I'd like to add a point. I mean, on the issue of, say, your boss going behind your back, I think, this happens, and perhaps also among your own colleagues. Perhaps you've been working on something together, and one of your colleagues goes behind your back to show that they are the ones who actually did the work. Yet, perhaps the idea might have generated from yourself. And I think on that issue, what I'd encourage everyone present is to be the best there is at whatever you do. Yeah, I mean, I know of companies where employees have left, and all their clientele have also left with them. That goes to show that what matters is your individual input in an assignment, and also you can actually use that weakness, to advance your strength in a way that in the workplace you cannot be forgotten, that you cannot be put aside, that you contribute so much that when you're not around, that your colleagues or your boss notices. So you need to also find ways to make yourself very invaluable such a way that you know that you have so much worth, and this is what you bring to the table. Otherwise, if you are the type of person to sit at the back bench and wait to be looked for and wait for everything to be presented to you, then you're very easily disposable. Then at the end of the day, it's very easy for people to go behind your back, because you do not come off as taking a stance. So I just wanted to add that, and I think it's important. Thank you.
Very well put. Thanks, Chris, Stella, and Dr. Esther. The point, and you raised it and you put it well, Chris, is about, experience. Nobody can ever take away that from you, right? Somebody can say you cheated in your exam and all those stuff. They can take away your paper, but experience is something that nobody can take away from you, right? Part of being diligent and having integrity, that will stay forever, right? And when you get to points that you are diligent in what you do and full of integrity, people will know, right? And if you're doing your thing the best way, nobody else can do it, whatever they do, they'll still be coming. And it's good. Sometimes you say it's good. I mean, they come to copy me. If I don't give stuff to be copied, they don't have content. So you have to create content for these people to copy. And this week I had some discussion with a young man, and maybe he's even here. And I was telling them, you see, the thing is this, you can go to a place, for example, a hotel, you want to be a cook or a chef, but you don't have the experience, or you don't have even the papers, you've not even gone to the school to do that. How do you get there? And I told them, if it was me, I'll start by cleaning utensils in that kitchen. I'll cleanse them so well to points that whenever I am not there, guys are causing, where is this guy? And when I'm there cleaning, I am learning from this chef that is there. Within no time, maybe the chef gets sick. I'll say, I'll cook that chicken curry that he does. And they'll look at it and say, what? Can you do it? Yes. And you do it. Within no time, you become even the chef. If you want to be a housekeeper, probably you would just need to start by cleaning those toilets that nobody wants to clean. That you clean those toilets, that when the guests come and say, the person who did this did it well. By the time they're giving you that job of the housekeeper, nobody will have told them to do, because you're doing it in such a way that nobody else can do it. If they want to do it behind your back and so on, you've done it so well that nobody can do it the way you have done it. So that by itself, the work speaks for you, and you don't need this. And because you see, and for those of us who worked for a long time, we can tell you this for free, that politics is part of your role and your responsibility in an organization, whether you like it or not, sad or not. It's a place and something that you have to play, but you need to know how to play that politics. As long as your work is there, politics becomes a smaller component of it, right? But if you don't do your work, then politics becomes a bigger component. So it's up to you to choose what percentage the politics will take, but it will be there. But if you have work that you've done well, then it makes it an easier part of doing the politics, but it shall be there. So I know we've gone beyond time, and I would like probably to invite now Agnes, who's giving us a bit of some details of what we do at eLearning Solution, and what you expect from us in the next coming weeks, right? Agnes, over to you.
All right, thank you, Tony.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone, once again. As Tony mentioned, my name is Agnes Mwangi from eLearning Solutions, and I'm currently the head of business development. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for attending the session, and I hope we've gained some insightful information about interpersonal relationships and how to apply this into our personal lives, and also our current and future professional careers. Now, at eLearning Solutions, we have partnered with Riara University to offer a comprehensive soft skills training. Actually, what we've covered today on interpersonal relationship is just a glimpse of what we are offering on the 21st century soft skills. It's actually a 9-unit course that covers areas to do with making effective decisions, leadership, citizenship, the world of work, personal management, and also the topic that we've been handling today on interpersonal relationships. These are just topics that are relevant in the current job environment. And this particular course is available online. It is self-paced, so you can do it at your own time, anytime, and it's online. You don't have to attend a class to actually attend this particular course. And some of the features for this particular course include webinars, such as what we're doing today. We also have discussion forums within the course. We have e-portfolios, reflective journals, all these aspects just to make the training more interactive and just creating an environment that allows for interaction for the students that are taking the course. Now, the target for this particular course is college-going students and university students, TVET students, graduate trainees, new hires, young adults who are into internship programs, or even guys who are doing attachment. And the registration cost for this particular course is 9,500. This is for Kenyans. And for the non-Kenyans, we are charging 100 USD. So feel free to join us. The course actually takes 9 weeks to complete. And upon completion, you get a certificate for taking the course. So our call today, we're actually calling upon students online to register for the course. We're also calling upon parents also online to encourage and facilitate students to register for the course. And also for institutions that are online and corporates, we're also calling upon you to take up the opportunity to acquire the licenses to train your students or your employees. On the chat, I'm going to be sharing a link where you can use to register for the course. Then on the next slide, if you need to contact us on the same, you can reach us directly on the contact that will display on the slides. Otherwise, Tony, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you everyone for taking part, participating in this, and we look forward to having you on board for our future webinars. As Tony mentioned, we'll be having monthly webinars, so we look forward to having you on board. Thank you so much, Tony. Back to you.
And thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate your time. We pray that you got something out of this. Going to 2 hours time that we've had with you. Please feel free. Our contacts are there. You can be able to send us email, go to our website, see what is there. Please interact with us and say probably there are things that you'd like us to cover that you can't see us covering. We are able to come and have that conversation with you. But we thank you so much. Forgive us for going beyond time. We like being diligent with also our time. But we apologize for running over, but we do want to close anybody out. And thank you for your patience. And you have a lovely evening. Have a lovely remainder of the week. God bless you and be productive in where you are. And thanks so much.
Before you leave.
Yes, Eric.
Maybe I wanted to request if we can have slides of what we have discussed today. Is it possible?
Okay, if you've registered, we have the call being recorded. So it can actually be, I believe it can be shared with you. So if you had already registered, I think this recording can be shared, if I'm not wrong. Dr. Kashisho? Yeah, correct. So yeah, it was being recorded, so it will be shared with you as a recording, which will be much easier, right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. Anybody else have closed out? Please share your comments on the chat. We'll be able to get back to you. Asanteni sana. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too. That was very, very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shiro.
Okay.